Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm going to be talking about something really interesting because, this is something I wouldn't have expected, at all, actually. Um, I wouldn't have expected this. So, essentially, Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State of Ohio, has pretty much said that they're not going to make an exception for President Biden if they don't move the DNC back. And if they don't move the DNC back, Biden literally will not be on the ballot in Ohio. Like, he will just straight up not be on there. If you actually go here, you'll see that pretty much Donald Trump and Biden are both, here right now. As you can see, Donald Trump completely outvoted him in the state. Even though Biden got a higher percentage, Donald Trump managed to get way more raw votes than Joe Biden, and Republicans turned out basically Democrats by a pretty substantial amount, essentially. Let's see. And so this intro kind of resembles Ready Go Politics. Yeah, sort of. I guess the intro could be resemblance of that. But clearly, there is a possibility that he may not be on the ballot in Ohio, which kind of poses the question because here's the thing. I don't know, like, because what if there is a scenario, right, where Kennedy realizes that Biden's not on the ballot. What if he just throws all his eggs in Ohio and just tries to go for the state of Ohio? Which could be a problem because, for example, let's say Donald Trump were to get his 270 victory in Pennsylvania and Georgia, right? If Robert F. Kennedy were to get Ohio, Donald Trump would be short of the electoral votes he'd need to win the White House, and the election would be sent to the House of Representatives. And since Joe Biden would have the plurality of electoral votes, a lot of representatives would feel compelled to actually end up voting for Joe Biden in the House. So this is the problem with Ohio. I know, people are excited that Biden may not be on the ballot simply because of a deadline error, but I'm not super, oh my God, yay, Trump's insta winning it. I don't know, man. I don't know. Biden not being on the ballot could really get RFK a shot, here. Because I think that RFK, even if you look at polling, guys, like we actually have a poll for this. If we go over here, we'll see that Trump is up on Kennedy in the state by like 8 points. So I don't think Kennedy would win it, but like at the same time too, it does kind of, upend the upend the state a little bit. It may throw a wrench. You may see like Texas and Florida be safe Republican and Iowa be safe, but like Ohio be likely or something like that. But if RFK were to, really just put all his eggs in his basket in Ohio, he could get there. I think he could probably get the race below 10 points, possibly even within 5. If RFK were to literally just live in Ohio, I think that could be a possibility. But at the end of the day, I doubt he's going to win it, but it does pose a question. We do have a viable poll for this out of the state. Kennedy's at 39, Trump's at 47. So, and the problem with this is that we can't assume Trump outperforms the polling data because he's never gone against an independent candidate before, technically. So, that's the thing, too. I don't know what would happen in that scenario. I think if Donald Trump is winning by the margin I suggest that he's winning by, according to my model, then he wouldn't necessarily have to worry about it because if that were to happen, Donald Trump would actually win with 306 electoral college votes. Um, Ohio is red and Trump is well liked outside of the three main cities, and we don't count them anyways. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, as of right now, guys, if we were to look at polling, which is pretty interesting to kind of look at this because all the polls, have New York's actually under 10 now, by the way. Just like officially, the aggregate in New York should have it below 10 points. I'm surprised. Like, if we go here, let's see if they have an aggregate. I'm surprised they don't even have an aggregate here. Maybe it's not under 10, but It's definitely, there is a question to be posed in New York, guys. There is a, and I've said this, I've said it could go below 5 points. I've said it before. And Donald Trump in 2020 was underestimated in the aggregate by 6 points. And so if the same error were to happen again, Trump could possibly lose it by a lean margin. He could lose it by a lean margin, guys. So it is okay. Well, let's see something. So you don't you don't get the problem for Dems in Ohio. They could just write in somebody or not turn out, and I doubt they would all vote for RFK. Um, I mean, I don't think RFK would get all their votes, and I don't think that Biden would, like, if Biden were to have to be a write-in candidate, I don't think it'd be the same. I don't think it would be the exact same thing. But guys, if you were to look at the election right now, if you were to simply look at the election, here's the thing that Democrats, they don't understand this because they fundamentally, they're broken. Guys, make sure to hit the like button on the video. I would greatly appreciate if you guys can go ahead and do that. It would be very, very appreciated. So here's the problem for the Democrats. They don't understand that they are a polling error away from losing the election. Trump just needs the same polling error from even 2016, let alone the 2020 polling error. If he gets that same error, he would, for example, in Maine, funny enough, if you actually look at the latest poll out of Maine, Biden was ahead by 13 there. He ended up winning it by 9.1, so that's a 4-point overestimation. The latest poll would theoretically have Trump up by 2 with the RFK crosstabs. 37% Trump, 35% Biden. That's Trump plus 2. If you were to apply that poll, Trump would be winning the state of Maine by a likely margin. Iowa, Ohio, forget it. They're safe. They're automatically safe states. Florida would be borderline safe, almost borderline safe. The polling aggregate, I think, has him up by 9 there. Something like that. Or now he's actually up by 10.5%. And in 2020, Biden was ahead in the aggregate by 2.5. He won it by 3.4. So that's a 4 point. It's a, it's literally like, it's a 4.9 percentage point polling miss. So if you were to add that to this, he would literally he would literally be winning the state of Florida by a safe margin. Same thing for Texas. He'd be up in Texas by a couple of points. The polling error there was for, maybe it's not safe, but because if we look at it, if we go to Texas, I think the polling error here was like 4 points. He's up 9.9. If we go over here, Donald Trump was up 1.1, 5.6. So it's a 4.5 polling miss. So it's literally like, it's ever so slightly short of the safe column. It's ever so slightly short of the safe column. The safe Democratic states, California would still be safe. DC, Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont. That's literally it. Those are only safe Democratic states. Even Hawaii wouldn't even be safe, because if we were to go to Hawaii and look at the latest poll, which has Trump up by 8, and you look at the aggregate, he was up 34 points. He ended up winning by 29. And so that's a 5-point polling error. So if you were to apply that polling error to the aggregate, Trump would be down in Hawaii by 3 points. He'd be down by 3 in Hawaii. If you go to Alaska, he was up by 7.7. Trump's ahead by, if you were to pull this out, I guess he'd be ahead by like 18, 17 points. And he ended up, that's a 3-point polling error miss in favor of Biden. That's completely safe. Forget it. That's completely safe. Colorado, if we go to Colorado, Biden, if you were to basically do the aggregate for this, he'd basically, okay, that's 7, 10, and that's about it, because you can only use these 3 polls because there's not even a lot of polling data. If you look here, this would probably average out to, well, let's see what this averages out to. 6.4%. If you go to 2020, you're going to see that Donald Trump was overestimated here by like, I think he was overestimated by a point. So the state would be in the likely Democratic column, which is fine because that state's trending to the left. But if you look at Washington, which he led by 23, 19.2. So that exact error would be 3.8. If you were to go to the state of Washington and you look at the polls, right? They ended up having a new, they ended up getting these Democratic, partisans made this poll right after these because they were freaking out about the fact that Washington's polling had Trump up by 5 with third party candidates. You know how crazy that is? That a poll in Washington, despite it having super low sample sizes, actually had Trump up in the state. Like, you know how ridiculous that sounds? So if you were to get this, right, if you were to do minus 15 minus 6 or plus 5 plus 1, guys, just to give you an idea of this, guys, he's up in the average in the state by 3.75% with the 4 latest polls. All I'm doing is I'm getting the aggregate of the state and I'm doing the polling error from 2020. That's all I'm doing. I'm not doing some crazy shit. I'm not making this shit up, guys. I'm really not making this shit up. If you go to the poll, if you look, that's the aggregate with the 4 latest polls. If you go over here, the polling error we calculated was 3.8%. So, according to this, Trump would win Washington by a tilt margin. He'd actually pick up Washington. If you were to get the current aggregate of the 4 latest polls and apply the polling error from last cycle, he's up in the state by a tilt margin. He's actually up in the state. If you go to Oregon, guys, it's ridiculous. If you go to Oregon, Biden was up by 21 points. He ended up winning it by 16.1. So that's like a 5.2 percentage point polling error. The state right now currently has, look, this would theoretically give Biden a point lead. So let's average all this out, right? Let's average this out. Guys, he's up in the state by 9.7%. So if you were to apply the polling error from 2020, which was 5.2, if you were to do that, Biden is up in the state by a lean margin. He's up by a lean margin in the state. Let's see. Not a huge math person. Can you put in Florida terms? So basically, the polls where they ask the people like who they're going to vote for, if you get the 5 latest or 4 latest polls in each state and you average them out and you apply the polling miss from 2020, so like if someone won a state by 5 but the polls had it tied, the polling error would be 5 points against a candidate. So if you were to apply the polling error back to them, this is all I'm doing, and I'm using real data and historical polling errors to show you what this would look like. It's absolutely ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous how well of a spot Trump is in. I genuinely think Biden doesn't have a chance at winning right now. I really don't, because if you look at this, right? 5.3, that's a 2.9 percentage point polling error. 2.9%. So if you were to go over here, guys, he wins Nevada by 7. He wins Nevada by 7 points. In Arizona, he's up 4.3. The polling error in Arizona was around 2.3%. So if you were to apply that, it'd be a 6% victory in the state of Arizona. If you go to New Mexico, where I actually think that we don't have too much data out of there, the latest poll would be Biden 5. So Biden plus 5, Biden plus 8, right? And we see this here, and 11. So let's say well, and actually we already accounted for that. So let's say, and then 10. So let's go back 4 polls. 8.5%, right? 8.5. The polling error here overestimated Biden by a little bit less than a point. So he'd be up in New Mexico by 7 percentage points according to a polling error. And this is probably because the white vote's actually shifting to the left. That'd probably be why. And if we look at California, the polls here I actually think were spot on. The aggregate was actually completely spot on here. So it'd be a 20-point victory, or not even, well, yeah, it would be a 20.4 victory. So the polling there was spot on last time. If we look at Illinois, just to give you guys an idea of this, right now, plus 9, plus 10, 20. And actually, we can't even go back that far because these polls are too old. We literally have to use this Kennedy poll. So Trump is down by 9 in the state, basically. Right? The polls had Biden winning it by 16, so he was underestimated. So it'd be a 10-point victory for him, according to the polls. Georgia is another state where you could see this and be like, what in the world? 5.4. The margin here, 1.2. The margin was 0.2. It's a point overestimation in Biden's favor. 6.4% margin of victory in the state of Georgia. North Carolina, we can go over here. 6.1 lead. 1.9. The real result was 1.3. If you were to add that up and get the absolute value of that margin error, 3.2. So Nevada or North Carolina would be a likely margin. If we go to Virginia, the aggregate is going to be interesting here because Trump is going to be within striking distance of winning it. He's going to be very close, guys. He's going to be very close to winning the state. He's going to be very close to winning it. Very, very competitive here. If we look at this, right? Let me get rid of this. +1. And another +1 poll because you have the Kennedy poll and you have this poll. And this is already going all the way back to March. Guys, he's up in the state by 2 points. If you were to look at the state here, the aggregate, 11.8%. He ended up winning it by 10.1, 1.7. So if you were to apply this polling error, Biden's up in the state by a tilt margin. So he's up here by a tilt margin. And by the way, he's already winning the electoral college. Trump's already winning here. He's already winning the electoral college because Washington flipped with the polling error. And even without Washington, he wins because he already has Maine in the likely column. It's probably safe to say that all these states would be likely. New Jersey is actually an interesting one because if you look at the polling error here, it was 20.4 minus 15.9. It was a 4.5% polling error here. Trump in the latest poll is literally up by 5. Is up 5 points. And not even that. If you were to average this out, so 5 and 8, because Trump's up by 8, Biden's up by 8. If you look at that and you divide this by 2, he's up by 6.5. So 6.5 minus 5.4 is only a 2-point lead in New Jersey. So there is a reason why Trump is going to New Jersey. There is a reason why he's going here, guys. He's trying to pose, he said on his things like, "Oh yeah, we're going to just, we're gonna go here. Oh, it's in play and stuff like that and whatever." And people think, oh, he's going there for down ballot races and stuff. No, guys, he's being for real. Like, the campaign wouldn't send him there if their internals were not looking this good. Even I was surprised that they sent him there until I started looking at the data, the polling errors. And it's not really shocking that they're sending him here. New York is the biggest shocker because if you were to go to New York and look at all the polling, right? If you were to look at this, the polling here is absolutely insane. 9, 19, and then Biden would be up literally 5, by the way. It's with Kennedy, he's up 5 and Biden 10, right? So the 4 latest polls, right, divided by 4, 10.7. The polls were off by like 6.1. So this state would be a lean margin with polling errors included. Even Connecticut, I actually think would be within a polling error. It would be under 5 points. Or, yeah, 9. Because you see, these are too... Or even this Emerson College poll is too old already. It's already in October. This is the latest data we could use, which actually, we could look at this. It has them up 16, technically. And we look at 2020, 26 points 26.1 minus 20 points. So it was a 6-point polling error. So the state would basically be likely, just like I suggested. It would be a likely state. New Hampshire is interesting because the polling aggregate has not updated on RCP. The polling error here is very large. It's a 4-point polling error in favor of Biden. So that was a big margin. That was a big thing. And actually, what I just realized is that there is a new poll out of New Hampshire that has it tied. It's tied. I didn't even know this poll existed. It's a tied poll with the 800 voter sample. And now I've never heard of these people, but it's tied in with third party and with Kennedy. It's tied. It's tied with Kennedy. It's a 6-point lead according to Massachusetts. And if you apply a 4-point polling miss from 2020, it's a two. It would be a 2-point victory, which is actually what I have it at. I'd say New Hampshire would be like a 2-point win. Here he's up by 1. So let's say, 4-1, he's up 6 here. It's tied here, right? In this poll. Then he's up by 3 from January. So if you were to average this out, guys, he's up in the state by 2.5%. And the polling error was a 4-point miss. So Trump would be up in the state by a lean margin. It's simply by getting the average and applying the last election's polling error, he'd be up in New Hampshire by a lean margin. He'd be up. If you look at Pennsylvania, he'd be up as well. Pennsylvania, let's find it here. Here it is. He's up in the aggregate by 2 points, or 1.6, I guess. Biden 4.7 minus 1.2, 3.5. If you were to look at the aggregate right now, he's up by 1.6. 1.6 plus 3.5. He's barely ahead by a likely margin, which is actually what I had in my previous forecast video from yesterday, I believe. I actually had him winning it by 5 to 6 points. And what we're going to do actually is we're going to compare this. When I'm done doing this, I'm going to compare this to my model. Just so you guys could see that my model may not be that crazy, because a lot of people, for some reason, like to think that, oh, my model is going to be so wrong, and oh my god, whoa, like you're having these crazy margins. Trump's up by 9 in Wisconsin. Like, how could you? Like, what's going on? The RCP aggregate has actually narrowed up by quite a significant amount. So we are going to fix the current data. As of right now, 7.1. It was at 2.8. Okay, so 0.7. So you would end up getting a 6.4 shift to the right, and and he's still up by 2, by the way. So that's the thing, he'd still be up by 2. And if we go to Biden's approval rating, minus 15.3, so the election's gonna look slightly closer. Like, Biden will probably be winning Minnesota on my map now. Probably. He'll probably be winning Minnesota now. But that's about it, though. That's the only thing that changes. Trump would still be winning the major swing states fairly easily. We have 71 concurrent viewers in here, so to whoever's in here, I actually really appreciate you guys looking at the stream. I really do appreciate it. Guys, make sure if you're in here, make sure to go ahead and like the video. And if you guys are new, make sure to go ahead and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it if you guys would do that. It would mean the world to me. Tracy Dearhart says, hi, thank you. Oh, what are you thanking me for? Oh, okay. I guess since you're here. Well, I appreciate it. Whoever's new, make sure to go ahead, like the video. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to go ahead and follow Twitter. And we do have a Discord server in the description down below. So you guys want to look at that as well, you can. I'm just very happy that 77 people are here watching me go over the polling results here. I think that's pretty awesome. The last live stream also had quite a few people watching it too. Like, a decent amount of people were actually attending it. But I feel like I've been doing a bunch of spontaneous streams, so I don't really know what the difference has been. And if we look at Biden's approval rating is 4.5, Trump, we'll see what his approval rating is at. RCP favorability. Let's see what he's at right now. 43.1 still. He's still sitting at 43.1, 4.5 for Biden. So it's a 2.6, lead in the national popular vote. And that's 7.1. So according to my latest forecast, Donald Trump is still winning the election. Minnesota actually still goes to Trump even in this scenario. Now, New Mexico and New Hampshire are now lean Democrat, so that's that. Now they're leaning. Virginia's over a 2 point victory. Wisconsin's down to an 8 point win. Nevada's down to a 9 point win. But Pennsylvania, guys, right now, Pennsylvania 7.4. It's within the margin of error of the polling error, from what I've listed. Georgia was around, a 7 point, it was like around 6 points, and I have it at 7.2 victory. Arizona, I said it's roughly the same thing. I have him at 7 points. Colorado, he's up by 8 according to the polling error. I have him winning by 6 or by 7 basically. California, the aggregate has him at 20.2, which was accurate in 2020, and I have him up 18.5. If Connecticut, if you were to apply the polling error from the 16 plus poll there, he'd be up in the state by 12. I have him winning by 11.8. Hawaii is a little bit off because the aggregate has not really reflected, I guess the trends, I don't think, I honestly don't think he would win it by around a lean margin. I don't think Biden would win it by a lean margin, but I think it'd be a lot closer than what it was in 2020. Kentucky's a 33 point win. Kansas is 21 points. So Iowa's a 17 point victory. Maryland 24 point win. Massachusetts 26. Michigan, he's up by 5. So actually, if you were to look at Michigan, Trump's up by 0.1%. The polling error here was 5.1. And if we were to look at the aggregate, he'd be up by 5.2% in the state. So that's likely. And my model has him winning by 5.9. So, guys, like, I'm really trying my best here because there's a lot of people that think I'm like really making this crap up, but I'm really not. Like, it's like all of the polling errors that would basically happen are sort of appearing on this map. They're sort of happening on the map. Wisconsin, he's leading in Wisconsin by 1.3%. The polling error in Wisconsin was very large. It was an 7.8 polling miss there. 9 points. I'm winning by 9 with a polling error. He's up by 8.1. So, Minnesota, he's winning it by 0.2, according to my model. If you go over here to Minnesota, he's up by 9.2. He won it by 7.1, 2.1 polling error. He's up in the aggregate by 2.8%. So if you were to do the math, he would be up, according to a polling error, by a tilt margin in Minnesota. And in Nebraska, second, the polling error was actually very large there. Or actually, I think it was in favor of Donald Trump. So Nebraska second would probably be tilt Trump or tilt Biden. Like it could go either way. So according to polling errors in all of the states, this is what the electoral college would look like. He'd be winning Washington. He'd be within striking distance of winning New York. He'd be basically a tilt margin away from winning Virginia and Minnesota. He'd be in striking distance of winning Oregon and New Jersey and New York. Like, this is an absolutely ridiculous. This is a ridiculous map to look at. It's actually ridiculous to look at. The fact that this is within the realm of possibility from previous polling errors is absolutely hilarious. I think it's the funniest thing in the world. Now, guys, I am going to talk about something. I am actually going to try to program a website where I can actually put out my projections for the 2024 presidential election. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet. However, I'm going to be playing around with certain things and see how I would get that to work, because I'm not exactly sure how I would even get that to work anyway, but I'm going to try my best to figure it out pretty much. And so, guys, it's not looking good for Joe Biden. It's just not. It's looking really bad for him. All the polls have him down. He hasn't led a national poll since May 20th, basically, he led a Quinnipiac poll, right? He led a Quinnipiac poll, which is the most left-leaning pollster. Even in North Carolina, the Dem internal polls have Trump up by 3 with third-party voters. It's honestly so bad. CBS has him up by 4 with Justine. Even the Dem leaning internal with all of the candidates has Trump up by 4 and has him up by 2 with no one else. CBS News has him up by 5 without third party candidates. Florida, Trump's up by 13 according to CBS News. It's ridiculous. Supporting Biden has become more of an idiot test. Owen for Congress on point. Never ending year. Biden is cooked. I think right now Biden's finished. I genuinely think that Biden is finished. If I had to project the election today, these are all of the states I could basically say are 100% gonna go in either column for either candidate. This is what I would write down for the electoral map. I would only be able to project 116 electoral votes for Biden. I would only be able to project these. I wouldn't even touch Colorado. I wouldn't touch Illinois. I wouldn't touch Virginia. I wouldn't even touch New York. I could maybe call Illinois and Colorado. And that's like a big maybe. But I wouldn't even touch these. I would not even touch them. I wouldn't even touch Hawaii. I wouldn't even call Hawaii today. I wouldn't even call Hawaii, guys. That is how much of a position we're in where Trump is in a statistical range of actually being able to win Hawaii. Now, Florida, Biden technically is still within the realm of statistical possibility of winning it, but I think it is very unlikely he wins it. I also think it's unlikely Biden loses Hawaii. I think it's unlikely he loses Colorado, Illinois, or even like New York even. This is not a margin map per se. It's more so a, how likely they are to win the state. I even think New Jersey could even join this column. In terms of who's winning the state, I think Georgia, North Carolina, very certain. Arizona, I'm pretty confident, but not a likely of margin of confidence. So with Nevada, so with Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Virginia, New Hampshire, as well as Maine at large, I'm fairly confident Biden's going to win those by around a lean margin. New Mexico, Minnesota, and Nebraska, those are the ones that I'm a little bit iffy. I'd give Minnesota to Biden, and so would I give him New Mexico, but probably not Nebraska second. So that actually puts Trump at 313 electoral votes as of right now. That would put him at 313 electoral votes. If I had to be, if this was a confidence radar and like what margin the states would go by, and it does look like a margin map, funny enough, but if I had to kind of do like a basically do like a confidence margin, this is probably where I'd be at in terms of the election, more than likely. And out of all the states that are completely solid, these are the states that I would actually be able to call. I'd probably have to leave Maine up. Basically, I'd have to leave Maine up for grabs because we don't even know if it's gonna vote Republican or Democrat, and that might affect the results. So theoretically, these are all the electoral votes I could call right now. I'd even put Iowa and Ohio in that column. That's how Republican those states have gotten to the point where I can genuinely put them in a column where Biden literally is. It's basically almost statistically impossible that he could even win those. Texas and Florida, I'd even say Texas could even be called. It depends, but I think you could even project Texas today, in my personal opinion. I may end up doing a interactive website where you can actually I'm gonna like predict like not predict the election but project the results early, so to speak, and I could automatically put all of these states in the Republican column, like project these like almost no matter what. Now, funny enough, since the polling in Washington and Oregon are within 10 points, I can't even project those either. And Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Delaware, I could probably call those already. So Biden has a base of like, and not even Hawaii. So Biden literally has a base of like 95 electoral votes. And these are all of the electoral votes that I would basically project. I'd even call Alaska for him in South Carolina already. So he is looking to be by Trump's looking at a pretty good spot. He's looking to be looking at a pretty good spot, and I'm actually stepping it up, guys. I'm actually stepping up my game with the, electoral college, predictions. And I've talked about this before, but I need to update the models. Basically, what I'm doing is I have the most competitive states, and I may even have to add, like, I might have to add, like, New Mexico and add a bunch of states, because it's just so ridiculous how, like, it's actually so ridiculous, like, how much, you know Trump is, in fact, it's actually, like, it's ridiculous, guys. It is really insane how ridiculous it is that Trump could even be up. And minus 15.3. According to this, what's actually kind of interesting is that Trump would actually be up in Wisconsin by 3, according to this. Now, I do need to kind of change this because I'm going to match the way I do it on another thing. So, if I were to get rid of all of these, basically all these correctors, Trump's up by 3.57, and basically all of these would have to be multiplied by f5, and then from there you would pretty much just go down, on the list essentially. And so he'd be winning the state, like, without any, basically any correctors. Trump is up in the state by 3 with all the latest data, essentially. And this, guys, is, 2016, 2020 county margin swings between each, and the trend for each county and how many votes are in each. So literally, it's supposed to project the vote count in each state, and it's supposed to project the percentage every single candidate would get in certain states, which is honestly pretty insane. And this one actually took me a bit, but I actually ended up, the other ones were a lot easier to kind of do. Now, what I am gonna actually do, guys, to entertain chat, before I even do it, I'm gonna go ahead and poll chat. Would you like to see me, guys, on stream right now go over alternate election history? So I'm gonna poll you guys really quick. Would you like to see me do alternate election history? Yes, no. So you guys can go ahead and answer that question. Wait for people to basically answer the poll. There's about like 54 of you guys in here. It currently tells me there's 63. So there's about 8 votes. Everybody's basically saying yes. 10 votes, 9. It's probably gonna go back up. I already went back up. Now, so basically everybody wants to see it. Now, hopefully. And so what would you guys, and so guys, before I do that, basically what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to get all of these and essentially multiply it over here. So let me actually see if it goes through. Okay, so you see the difference. It helps Trump in some counties, and then it helps him in it's overall helped him. He gains a couple points here. So um, I might, like, I'm probably gonna start using these from now on, like this model, because it's literally a county by county model that tracks all the trends. And what's actually quite funny is that if you go to 2020 and you actually completely get rid of these numbers for now, and you go back here and you get rid of this, right? Like, let's just get rid of this and then, like, go over here. Um, some of the some of them are not that off. This model, without any correctors, would have predicted a 2-point victory for Biden in Wisconsin, and the actual margin was basically 0.63. So the model would have been off by like a point and a half. That's not that bad. That is not that bad, guys. That is really not that bad. And that is with, just to give you guys an example, That is with Trump's approval rating at the time of the day. Wisconsin's polling average, the swing of the state compared, from back then, and the lead, or like, yeah, and the swing from the national popular vote and the lead of the national popular vote. With all of that actual real raw data, the model would have projected a 2 point victory for Biden, which is actually what I had it at in 2020, by the way. That's actually exactly where I had the state at. I actually had it at a 2 point victory. And what's funny is that Trump actually does slightly worse in the rural counties for some reason, but he does better in like the he does better in the urban counties, which is pretty interesting. Like he does better in Ozaki for some reason. I don't know why. Let me actually go to Ozaki. I don't know why I have it listed as a 19-point win. It's a 12-point win. I don't know why I have it listed as a 19-point victory. Did I make that mistake over here? See, I don't know why. Oh, okay, okay. I was like, what? I was about to say. But either way, hey Thomas, what have I missed? Well, I was just kind of going over my individual state models, which I'm probably gonna have to make more of these, for other states even. I'm gonna have to probably make more um for them. I'm probably gonna have to make more. Because this is actually, funny enough, this margin, this equation that you guys see here is actually the exact equation that I use. It's the same exact equation for the state as a whole races. So like when you look at my other model, it's the same exact equation. And funny enough, if we go over here actually, where is it? Wisconsin 2024, and I apply these. I'm gonna probably end up finishing this a little bit later, but if you were to get these so far and apply them here to kind of correct it to the real margin from 2020, Biden is barely losing. So as these correct themselves, they will more than likely end up let me see. As these end up like correcting themselves or whatnot, it'll probably give the most accurate margin, because this is basically what the other model does. It's basically what it does. Because what I have it do is, we can go over here, go to over here. What's also interesting too is that if you were to look at, this is the 2020 election with this is the election with 2020 demographics. So if Biden was ahead in the popular vote by like 2 points or something like that, um, he'd actually be winning the electoral college. Trump would be winning Michigan for some reason, and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So actually, Trump would still be winning the electoral college here. Funny enough, uh, but not like through a regular route, which is quite funny. Um, so he'd be winning through the Rust Belt. He wouldn't even be winning Nevada yet. It'd be like that 279 victory to the 259 victory. That's basically what you'd be looking at in that state, pretty much. But if you go to back to my sheet over here, it's the same exact equation, and what it is that there's this number over here that gets multiplied to the swing, and what it does is, it basically, what I did is I basically reversed engineered this to 2020, and this was the average number all the states were multiplied by. So like all those numbers averaged out to this, and so every single state gets multiplied out by the average. And the reason why I did it by the average and not the individual numbers, because if you were to do it by the regular number, Washington would be voting like 5 points to the, like it would be voting like 10 points Republican or something like that. Like it would give you super wonky results. So I was like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work out. But it's pretty decent. And even the model without any correctors is still pretty decent. It's only off by 1.4%. So hey, this stuff is not too bad. It's definitely not that bad. So I really can't be complaining that much. But we will see about Biden and Ohio. More than likely, he will probably not end up getting it. And so that's really going to affect his campaign. Trump will have a way better chance at winning the popular vote because that would just erase like 2.5 million votes from Biden's popular vote count, essentially. Maybe not 2.5 million, but it would definitely erase at least a million. So Trump would have a slightly better chance at winning the popular vote as of right now. And so I know this was a really quick, spontaneous stream. However, I am going to go now and I'm going to be working on these models and stuff like that so I could hopefully do a video on them tomorrow because I do want to do like an actual breakdown of the states. I think it'd be pretty cool to go over that. So, if you guys did enjoy the video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, make sure to go ahead and follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And I will see you guys very, very soon.